Hi, everyone. I am coming out of maternity leave to offer a very special children's message that is particularly important right now. I want to talk to you about some of the protests and unrest that some of you might see on the TV and news lately. It might seem really scary, and to be honest, it is. But I'm here to tell you that God is with us in all of this. One of my favorite passages comes from the first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis. And it tells us that God created the whole world with care and with purpose. From every tiny little molecule of water and air, every flower, every bug, every animal, and even us. We were created by God, and we're a part of God's big creation. In fact, when it came to humans, God actually created us in God's image. Now, some of you might immediately start thinking that God looks like you. And that's a pretty normal thing to think. But actually, we look like God. For many, many, many years, this is the image of God that we had. A white male, very old, with gray and white hair. But who else is older than God, right? So it makes sense that he would have gray or white hair. But in fact, if we're created in God's image, that doesn't necessarily mean that God is a male. And it doesn't mean that God is white. In fact, if we are created in God's image, then God is bigger than just what we look like. God has looked like this for many, many years because he was painted by white males. But we know a little bit better. We know now that we've looked at the text a little bit harder and we've thought a little bit about the way that our world looks, we see that there's at least two genders, and there's many, many different skin tones. In fact, Crayola is actually coming out with a new box of crayons that's called Colors of the World, and it's trying to capture the many different skin tones and colors that we come in. 24 of the colors are for different skin tones, and the other 8 are to help us color our hair and our eyes in all the different colors that they come in. No two people actually look alike, even identical twins. You can always tell them a little bit apart. We are all uniquely made to be special, and yet we're all made in the image of God. So that means that God doesn't have one gender, because God is found in the image of men and women. And God doesn't have a particular race or ethnicity. Instead, God is all races and ethnicities because God made us all in the divine image. God walks with us all. So God is like that box of crayons, even though it's still pretty limited with only 24 skin tones and 8 hair and eye colors. We are all uniquely and beautifully made in the image of God. That means that we all deserve to be shown equal love and respect. That is what the protesters all across the country, and some in other parts of the world, are fighting for. They believe that some people in our society are not being treated the way that God had intended for all of us to be treated as equals. That we haven't been showing each other the same love, protection, and care that God wanted us to. These protesters believe that we've not seen each other the way that God sees us, made in God's image. God doesn't want us to erase all the beautiful colors that this world was made with. Each person, animal, and thing was created with purpose and intention. I started our talk today with creation, but actually the last book of the Bible talks about the same message of unity and strength. The book of Revelation tells us that in the end of days, we will be brought together to be a part of God's heavenly kingdom. We stand together and we are given the same place with God. This is what the protesters are hoping to achieve in this world. A world where everyone cares for each other, stands up for each other, and loves each other equally. In the end, we are told that we'll all be in God's kingdom, no matter our skin tone, our gender, our native language, what country we come from. We're all united by God because we were all made by God and loved by God. This is the dream that the protesters have in the streets, even though some have changed that vision through vandalism and looting. This is the dream that God has for God's created people. May we live to see the day when a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, stand before the throne and before the Lamb. That comes from the book of Revelation, chapter 7, verse 9. And with that I say, amen.